Good morning and welcome to Sunnyside News, where we bring you only the most positive and interesting information from the heart of Florida, right here in Polk County. Sunnyside News is sponsored by Nature's Place, home of the Key Network and Speech Therapy Services. Today is May 13th, 2016, and it is Friday the 13th. The first good news item I would like to tell you about is about 9-year-old Tristan Jacobson, who set up a lemonade stand to earn a few extra dollars, but for a very special reason: to help fund his own adoption. He had been living with his legal guardians for quite some time, and they decided to legally adopt Tristan. But it would cost around $10,000 in legal fees. So the family was trying to cut back on living expenses so they could raise the money. Well, Tristan wanted to pitch in. So far, his earnings have exceeded expectations. The stand alone raised $7,000, and when the story hit the local news and social media, another $15,000 had been raised. Despite Tristan's bumpy and tragic start, he certainly has had some faith renewed toward his fellow man. The next article I would like to tell you about is Greg Smith, who works in downtown Orlando right here in Central Florida. He had befriended Amy Jo a few weeks ago at lunchtime. He learned that she is homeless, and he became actually charmed by her attitude and how positive she is, even though she is having some difficult times. Well, he also became impressed with her when she told him that every spare penny she finds, she puts toward renting books to help her learn to read, as she has found it difficult finding and maintaining a job because of her reading skills. Smith was so impressed that he now spends every Tuesday at lunch helping her to read. One step further he went by starting a foundation in Amy Jo's name to help those in need not only to read, but with basic life needs. Hats off to you. Another item I would like to share with you this week is worthy of 3 cheers for Cherrios. General Mills, the maker of the classic cereal, has announced that the farm that supplies oats for their Honey Nut Cherrios has designated 3,300 acres of farmland that they are turning into a habitat for endangered honeybees. The habitat will be filled with nectar and pollen-rich wildflowers. And they are doing this as the dwindling population of honeybees could actually spell doom for agriculture, as 75% of the world's food crops depend on these pollinators to some extent. This includes coffee, chocolate, and apples, to name a few. Imagine the world without these 3 crops alone. Hats off to Cherrios. Another story is about Mark Landry, who lives in the streets in Canada, and he plays his violin for tips and makes just enough money to be able to feed himself. Well, tragically, he woke up one morning to find that someone had stolen his violin. He was then subsequently forced to put out a sign begging for money to pay for a new violin. Well, his sign hit social media, and eventually it caught up with Jean Dupre, the leader of the Montreal Metropolitan Orchestra. Now, Dupre was able to purchase a new violin for Landry, and when Dupre presented Landry with his new violin, Landry then provided a song for all those who had gathered to watch the presentation. The homeless man received a standing ovation. You know, today is Friday the 13th, and according to the Stress Management Center and Phobia Institute in North Carolina, there are actually between 17 and 21 million Americans who are so affected by their superstition on Friday the 13th that some don't go to work, they don't go out, or they don't even get out of bed. Retailers estimate that between $800 and $900 million in revenue is lost that day. That is an amazing fact. Moving on to the events of the weekend, I would like to invite all of you to the Theater of Winter Haven. It's going on all weekend, where they are presenting Shrek the Musical Junior. This will be fun for the whole family. You can get more information by calling 863-294-7469. On May 13th, you can go to the Swing for Independence charity golf tournament to benefit the Alliance for Independence at the Eagle Brook Club in Lakeland. You can get further information by calling 863-655-3846. Also on the 14th is the second Saturday market in downtown Winter Haven. There will be antiques and crafters and vendors. This goes from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can get further information by calling 863-258-3561. As usual, I would like to wrap up today's program with a quote for you, and that goes, "You must live your life from beginning to end. No one else can do it for you. And that was actually a quote by the Hopi Indian tribe here in the United States. So that is our program for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Go out there, have a great Friday the 13th and an even greater weekend. And I will see you next week for another episode of Sunnyside News. Bye for now.